This is going to be to misunderstand placements, i.e., sympathy, compassion, boundaries. That also speak about the epic fail of Jeff Epstein. So I was looking at a post from a university. I'm not going to say what university it is. It's not really about the person that was doing the talking. It's more or less about what she was saying. And what she was saying is how, from her, not only understanding, you could see that it was her, and hear that it was her belief that there's been a big misunderstanding about having compassion, or not compassion, but passion for your job. So I'm going to get into that part about the passion, which is one of the main points that I'm making here. But it was real interesting the way she was kind of outdone about this rise in people, either maybe when they're applying to a job, or just how they're describing what kind of job they want, and now they're including passion. And she was real against it as far as it being any kind of prerequisite or requisite for, not only getting the job, but also an interest in a job. So she just feel like passion doesn't have to have a place. Now, she didn't say that there's no place for passion, but she was passionate. She was passionate about saying that it doesn't have to have a place with your employment. So I thought that was interesting. So again, my subject is to misunderstand placements, i.e., sympathy, compassion, boundaries, and again, epic fail of Jeff Epstein. I think it made me think of him when I was listening to her talk about passion at work. And so I'm going to go ahead and get into it. When it comes to sympathy, on my Facebook, I had posted not too long ago about personally not wanting sympathy. I don't look for sympathy from people. I don't have a sympathy kind of demeanor. Some people, don't mind having their hand out. I'm not that one. I know that we do need to embrace sometimes needing other people and things like that. But a lot of us have had bad experiences actually when we do need someone, or reach out to people. So we just try to avoid it. And a lot of us also, especially that was brought up either in the church or in the South, our parents taught us, don't ask for things and this, that, and the other. So we kind of shy away from it. But as I became an adult, I learned that it was okay to meet people. Like I said, it took a while though for me to even embrace that concept, only because like I said, people, they are quick to say, and I've always said, and other people have always said, they're quick to say, oh, if you need anything, yada yada, but they really don't mean it. It's just, whatever is coming out of their mouth. So we kind of shy away from it. So it's not about wanting sympathy, but I did make a post about having sympathy within our Black community, because not to go into the complete reason of how I came across the situation, but I came across a situation not too long ago where I was approached by, I'm just going to say, someone in law enforcement. And it was just out of the blue, out of the ordinary, not necessarily out of the ordinary, but I just wasn't doing anything at all wrong. And so it was just a weird encounter. And so after the encounter, it just made me think of how we spend so much of our energy in negative things, and we don't even extend to each other as Blacks in the Black community, or as, just Black people or African American, the smallest courtesies. We do not extend the smallest courtesy. So that's what made me think about sympathy. And it's like, if we don't have or extend the smallest courtesies to each other, I don't understand why we would expect it from other people. Why would you expect white people to be a little bit more sympathetic when you have a need? And let me say that because that's what I said. I don't want any sympathy from anyone, but if I ever needed sympathy, I would want it to be there, only because I'm a human being, I'm a kind person. I don't go out in some kind of vigilante fashion to do things to other people. So I would want it, if I needed it. And so that was my thing. It's like, but if you don't give it within your own race, within your own community, things like that, I really don't understand how Black people can expect it. And a lot of times we say, the white man, yada, yada, but okay, let's look at other races. Hispanic, Mexican, all these other races, Asian, they're becoming as numerous as the Caucasian race here. So they have the same code, they go by the same code, they have the same code, whereas they're first going to extend courtesies and things like that to their own race. And, so they don't have to beg anyone for small courtesies. Now, I'm not saying that they don't treat each other bad. They do. That's why we've got mass shootings, this, that, and the other, and people don't care who they hurt. But at the same time, from day to day, small courtesies, they get them. Okay, they get them. In all the other races, they get the small courtesies. But we just, for some reason, can't seem to get the concept of if you can't even give your people within your own small courtesies, then I don't understand how it can be expected. And again, my main point about that is not only about whites doing it, because we already know about white privilege, so we know that that's there. But the point is with other races, Hispanic again, Mexican, Asian, as those races get more numerous and more numerous, we see it more within their community. So that was just like a kind of a warning or a shout out to the Black community, like, hey, we got to make sure that we're even given the smallest of courtesies, because if we don't do it to each other, then we really can't expect it. And it's going to make the other races feel like they have a free pass to treat you any kind of way. Okay, and a lot of people are not going to want to be treated any kind of way. So we have to make sure, if you don't want to be treated just any kind of way, that you're not giving out that impression that it's okay to treat you or anyone in your race any kind of way. So that's the sympathy part. So I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense with sympathy. So then I hear her talk about this passion. Like I said, she was, there was a discussion to my mind right now. I don't exactly remember what the discussion was about. It was more than likely had something to do with maybe, I don't think it had anything to do with reparations, but I was looking at the college perception of something like, in the political of race where we are today, or, whatever along those kind of lines. And so the girl was just talking about, she brought up at the end of the conversation, she was talking about in jobs, and it might have been how, either race affects the workplace or things like that. But the girl asked a question at the end, and she was like, well, what about passion? A lot of times people now say when they're applying to jobs about having passion, and she took off. She took off from there and was saying how, well, it was just somebody, how it is when somebody in the intellectual community comes up with an idea. Somebody came up with the idea that it's good to have passion for your work. She was like, that took off, and now everybody's about passion, passion, passion. She was like, then, so she started talking about money, and she really focused on, money has nothing to do necessarily with passion. She, and got into it, and she was making sense as far as, you want to make sure that you're looking at that bottom line and things like that. But as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to money, the prime example with Jeff Epstein, people at work, when they fail to have compassion or passion for the ultimate goal of business, which is to make more money. Making more money is always in jeopardy when you're breaking the law. So whenever you don't incorporate compassion and passion and things like that for what you're doing, you're going to be okay with a whole lot of things that is going to lead to breaking the law. Okay, with Jeff Epstein, it was obvious a lot of people that overlooked a lot of things, and it was, there were epic lawbreakers there. It was a epic fail with his whole scenario. It was an epic fail. And it just made me think about that passion. That's what happens when you don't have passion. And some of these other things that I'm talking about, these are, like I say, misunderstood placements of things. Passion has its place in the work. And again, she didn't say that there was no place for passion. But like I said, she was vehemently against passion being a reason to take a job. And she was like, money is the bottom line, this, that, and the other. But for myself, I think it's a misunderstanding about the placement of, passion or compassion or sympathy. If you misplace those things, and then, I think it's going to lead to disaster. I'm not going to say you're asking for disaster, but I think in a lot of cases, because I've seen many cases that led to disaster because there were no compassion or passion.